The news broke recently that The Acolyte was cancelled, and all of Twitter became a shitstorm with endless posts discussing the event. But was it really cancelled? Multiple big social media accounts and news pages, Forbes, Variety, etc., all reference the same article posted by Deadline, which holds only one singular source. Sources tell Deadline. With no official word from Disney nor Lucasfilm, there is no way to verify the legitimacy of this news. On top of this, the article cited Nielsen data rankings in supporting the plausibility of this information. However, Nielsen uses minutes watched as rankings, which does not take into account length of each episode nor amount of episodes, and it's only for US numbers, not international. The Acolyte had significantly lower runtime than any other Star Wars show to date, with having the shortest episode length average of all live-action Star Wars and being tied for fewest episodes total with Ahsoka, effectively meaning that the data from Nielsen is naturally skewered in a way that makes the Acolyte look to be performing worse than it actually is. Something which was completely left out of the article reporting the news. This also goes for big accounts and YouTubers who were quick on the trigger to proclaim the death of the series, all without considering nor discussing the possibility that the information could have questionable legitimacy. This of course doesn't matter, since certain people, one might call them grifters, have actively been campaigning for the downfall of this show since before it came out. The big wave of this anti-content farm being put out started with the first official trailer being dropped. Several infamous reactions to this included doing a head count of children in a scene looking for ethnic white and finding none, much upset such pain, pointing out several times over that the cast was diverse, and so on and so forth, and most importantly using any out-of-context clips from interviews along with trailer shots to paint a vile picture of the people behind the show's creation. This one hasn't stopped as of writing, along with the classic gatekeeping fallacies. It's a franchise for boys. People that like this stuff are tourists and not real fans, etc. There quite clearly was a concerted effort to make the show fail, or at the very least make the show look as poor of quality as possible. And once any plausible evidence was found that could be used to support these claims, it was treated as gospel, regardless of its contextual validity. Hence why most of the hate towards the show initially used out-of-context interview clips as basis for their actions, since technically, from a certain point of view, one could claim that the showrunners have insidious motives based on what was said there. This is what the issue here is. Not whether or not the showrunners have insidious motives, but to find evidence that could technically suggest that they do. It is a pursuit to find evidence to fit the grifters' desired motive of the showrunners, rather than a motive that fits the evidence the show itself has presented. Keep in mind that my phrasing here may suggest that the showrunners had a motive to push some form of agenda, and I would like to dispel any such assumptions. I genuinely believe that the showrunners were mainly attempting to tell the story they believed was worth telling within their show's chosen setting. But I'm sure upon hearing this, these anti-fans will throw some fit about how there were lesbian space witches in their Star Wars, or how the canon was ruined, and what have you other vapid critique to be thrown at the show. Most of these talking points I've already countered in my review of the show. Go watch that if you want to argue those points. There is something else much bigger than all of this that also must be discussed. The lack of transparency coming from Disney about their intent with, well, all of Star Wars, such as the actual numbers their shows are doing on the streaming service. Once again, the Nielsen data that everyone shitting on the Acolyte keep citing uses poorly construed datasets. The main reason this isn't reported on is because it would end up affecting their stock value. Their silence holds greater power than honesty here. On top of this, there is the strange timing of having Manny Jacinto, who starred in The Acolyte, have his own panel at D23 where he talked specifically about The Acolyte and openly voiced his desire for the show to continue. As well as reports of a Season 2 writer's room being established all the way back in February before the show aired, suggesting that there very well could be a Season 2 ready to begin filming at a moment's notice, should it be greenlit. There are also several news articles during the show's run discussing how popular the show appeared to be. More than likely these were based off of Google search terms and general internet buzz. So, pinch of salt here, but it is worth noting that the show seemed to draw significant attention to the brand. My own Twitter experience was heavily painted by predominantly women, along with people of color gushing over the show and being generally happy about what the media provided them. I don't think I mentioned this in my review of the show, but the protagonist twins in the show are distinctly written as self-inserts for women. Thus, it should come as no surprise that this demographic heavily enjoyed the show and were singing its praises. All the while, a hefty portion of the normal demographic were throwing childish fits over the show's existence. The word normal is in air quotes here, because there is no such thing. And if you wish to claim otherwise, you can go ahead and open the Universal Complaint window on YouTube by hitting Alt F4. I have to say it would be odd for Disney to quietly cancel this show this early after its run concluded. I can understand a hesitancy with renewing the show considering the freak behavior that has centered its attention on the show. Point here being, the rumor of the show's cancellation holds questionable legitimacy at best. In spite of this issue, there was an enormous increase in negative interactions on Twitter with any account that had been known to post positively about the Acolyte in the wake of this news. Suddenly, accounts that on a good day got just over 10k views per tweet were getting more than 100,000 views. With a heavy emphasis of blue checkmarked accounts making vapid statements of the quality of the show, regardless of how the tweet they were responding to was phrased, they still made a concerted effort to downplay the show's value. On top of this, the hashtag #RenewTheAcolyte has been trending almost non-stop since the news broke, with every post over 10k views being sniped at by anti-fans. And of course, there was an increase in the use of slurs anytime someone argued with these replies, painting a clear picture that it is a juvenile effort aiming to build a status quo of correct opinion rather than actually discussing the rumors that brought them out of their caves. Let's be clear, yes, I am calling them childish cavemen. It is unfortunate that this is their chosen behavior, but they are probably manipulated and haven't quite figured out how to think for themselves. This brings me back to the root of the problem, the grifters who are making money from those that are lost and have become vulnerable to manipulations. I rarely believe that people should be deplatformed since it is anti-free speech, with some exceptions for extremes, but the damage these people are doing is making me realize that this is becoming an extreme situation, as every bit of stupidity and nonsense that they spew turns into a tidal wave of harassment towards those the grifters would deem undesirable. And even if the grifters themselves are not carrying out the vile actions themselves, there is always a direct correlation between them targeting a group of people or an individual with their words and said targets getting attacked online. So yeah, I don't think these grifters deserve to have an internet connection anymore and should just go back to cave paintings as their main form of communication. Anyway, Renew the Acolyte has a change.org campaign going with, as of writing this, 30,000 signatures. Go support them, I've linked it in the description. Alright, I think that does it for this video. See you in the next one.